All right, guys. So we're gonna get started. This is the last week of the RMBC method, which is Stefan's copywriting method. Before we jump into that, we're gonna do our usual round of shares. So if you have a win over the last week, wins can kind of be anything. Whatever you consider a win could be picking up a new client if you're a freelancer, putting out new copy, split test win. Um, Whatever else. I mean, honestly, whatever's a win to you, Steph and I would like to hear it. So feel free to unmute yourself, hop on and start sharing some wins.
I had a couple last week going up to yesterday. I think I landed, I think it was like 3 or 4 projects last week, which I think is the most I've landed in a week before. And then last night, one of my business partners and I ran our first master class for upcoming copywriters, up and coming copywriters. We thought it would be like 60, 90 minutes, might be a few people show up. We had like 50 people from all over the world, like I think it's every continent except for Antarctica. There were people up at 3 a.m. to learn from us. People skipping class, people who should have been studying for tests. They were spending time with us instead. We only lost 10 people throughout the whole thing, and it went for almost 3 hours. And the response was absolutely incredible. Someone said it was like life shaping, like best call they'd ever been on. And then we opened up our coaching program at the end, got some applications. But it wasn't like a traditional webinar with a lot of pitching. Like we just mentioned at the end for about 60 seconds that we were opening up our coaching program if they were interested. And it was just straight value. And it was just an unbelievable experience. Like we didn't expect people to be as impacted as they were. So that was pretty damn cool.
That's awesome, man. Congratulations. Look at you, changing lives.
Do what we can, right? Definitely helped getting a lot of stuff from you guys that we were able to kind of incorporate and modify for them, and our own stuff too. And it was good all around.
Awesome. Anybody else got a win to share?
I'll go.
Yay.
Small win, but a upsell that I designed and wrote some of the copy for just went live, so I'm excited to see how the conversions go.
Awesome. That's great. Yeah, keep us posted on how the conversions go.
Yeah, congrats.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Cool. Well, we'll top right into it. I know Stefan's got a bunch to share, so turn it over to him and let him do his thing.
Yep, definitely. And one thing that Justin will have to talk about, by the way, is I think it may make sense to actually turn this into a couple calls, just because when we ended up looking at we did the outline for copy last time. I think we found that if I try to go through everything in like a single call, it might get overwhelming. So what's probably going to make more sense is to kind of break up almost each of these sections into a call of sorts. Justin, I haven't talked to you about that, so I'm not trying to spring that upon you. But for today, I think we'll do a quick overview of the entire outline for copy, and then I'm going to focus mostly on the lead today. I have 3 examples, 2 are in financial, 1 is in health for that. But basically, as you guys, as a summary or review, right? RMBC, which I've talked about ad nauseum, research, mechanism, brief, and then copy. So, we've gone through the research component, the mechanism component. The brief is where you're taking it all together. You're taking your research and your mechanism, you're plugging it into the brief. And then copy C is where you're going to actually, go and write out the sales letter and write the sales copy. This is super important. Obviously, this is a very templatized approach. What you're going to see here as we go over this is that it's not like a perfect match. It's not like every single thing that you see here needs to be in your sales letter. And it doesn't mean that the order for some of this stuff has to be exactly in this order. And so I don't want to trip you guys up with that. But what Justin and I have noticed time and time again is that when people actually go and follow this outline, it tends to produce pretty good copy pretty consistently. It really is replicable. Like that's something I talked about at the live event in Austin. but it's true. It really is a replicable process. So it starts with the groundwork, the foundational work, the research, the mechanism, and the brief, but it carries over into this outline as well. So I really want to encourage you guys, and just like anecdotally, you and I have talked about before, where when we look at copying in the Facebook group and stuff, it's usually super clear on when somebody did follow this outline relatively and when they didn't. And we generally find is that when people didn't follow this outline, that's almost always when there was problems with their copy. Versus somebody like Larry Gray, who I don't think ever makes these calls, but he was our member spotlight for last week. And, with Larry, it was like his first sales letter ever. And it wasn't like 100% perfect. There's still little things to tweak, but it's like, it was pretty freaking good for his first sales letter ever. And it's because he followed this. So I just really want to ingrain that into you guys, your minds. Like this is like a template that works and it's proven to work. So like it makes sense to like follow it. So there's basically 5, or maybe I guess including 6 really big components, and the 7th would be FAQs. There's like and I'm gonna go broad and then go a little more modular, and then we'll get to examples. But there's like the lead of the sales letter. There's your background story. There's the unique mechanism of the problem, the unique mechanism of the solution, the product buildup and reveal, the close, and then I would add FAQs to that because it's really important. You guys have kind of looked at, we've talked about this stuff, and you've kind of seen this, and a lot of you guys have looked at the outline now in general. But to kind of start with like the lead, really, again, the most important thing with the lead, we've talked about this before, but some of this is repetition is really important. So even if you heard this before, don't be like, you should still listen and pay attention, because like it's good. It's a good reminder consistently. Right. The biggest point of the lead is to get people to keep watching or reading. Like the very first sentence, the entire point or purpose is to get somebody to go to the second sentence, to get them to go to the third sentence, the fourth sentence, etc. And you have this exponential thing that happens where if somebody like sticks with you for 3 seconds, they'll stick with you for the next 9 seconds. They'll stick with you for the next 27 seconds, and so forth. It's sort of like the longer they'll stick with you in the beginning, then the time they'll stick with you total increases. So like, what are we trying to do in the lead? Well, we're trying to call out the problem. Like if you suffer from XYZ, from a health perspective, it may be if you're suffering from, erratic blood sugar or the fear of losing your memory or something like that. That's one thing. It could be saying like if you're tired of people of not feeling like you're prepared for retirement, and you feel like life is passing you by and you're not getting to benefit from all of your hard work, and that you're going to have to keep working until you're in your 80s or 90s. Like there's a problem that's being called out in the lead of the sales letter. And then of course, once we call it a problem, we're promising a solution to that problem, to that pain point. A lot of times that's also kind of going to be couched in saving time or saving money, especially if it's a consumer product, right? So then in the next 30 seconds, I'm going to show you how you can retire faster than you thought possible without having to invest more than $5,000, without having to do this, without having to do that. You're promising the solution. A lot of times in a good lead, you're teasing an emotional discovery story. And we talk about that a lot in this group, and using emotional stories. And sometimes that is the very beginning of the lead. So it starts with the emotional story, and that's totally fine. You're not going to tell the entire story in the lead though, but you're going to tease the emotional discovery story. Something I only discovered after my wife left me and I nearly lost my arm, but fortunately, I discovered this in time, and I'm going to show you how it led me to discover this amazing solution. You're teasing the unique mechanism behind the solution. So again, like you're going to tease what the mechanism is. You're not going to tell them what it is in the lead of the sales letter. I'm going to just go through the lead here, like in this much detail, and then we'll go to the examples for the lead. You're teasing the contrarian nature of the mechanism, right? What you're going to see today flies in the face of what you've been told before. That's always important, because as soon as somebody starts watching some video or sales letter and they have no idea who you are, their bullshit radar is super high. They're skeptical, and they're immediately kind of like, they may watch because you have good copy that has them curious, but they are also kind of feeling skeptical already. Or even if it's not about you, it's about the fact that like, oh, whatever, I've already tried to lose weight a bunch of times. Like, oh, here we come, another diet, another workout, another product about keto, another whatever, or like another investment guru who's going to be sharing all of his magical picks that he seems to get these great returns. But anytime I've ever tried to follow the investment advice from a newsletter, I always lose money. So you have to be like, no, yeah, everything else sucks, but this is different. You've never seen it before. And we'll explain why inside of this letter or video. fascinations, right? We've talked about fascinations in the past, but and working those in as an incentive for continuing to like engage with the copy. So like, in fact, in the next 5 minutes from now, you're going to see why the number one mistake people who want to lose blood pressure make is that they cut out salt from their diet, and why you should actually be eating more salt if you want to lower your blood pressure. Why one grandma in Kansas says that the fastest way for her, that the secret to her becoming a millionaire was to actually invest in only 3 stocks plus what those stocks are and how anyone can get into them for less than $100. Whatever it is, like fascinations. Because again, we're not going to answer them. We just want people to be interested and keep engaging with the copy here in the lead. Credibility builders are always important. Again, like who's talking to the audience, right? Who's the spokesperson, or if it's a company or brand, like why should I listen to you? Are you knowledgeable? Are you authoritative? Do you have credibility? It's very important. One mistake I see a lot of times is people write these sales letters, which maybe have an okay lead, but it's like it's talking in the first person, but then they don't say who the spokesperson or narrator of the copy is until like halfway through the sales letter. And that's super weird to me because I'm like, I don't know who you are. Why am I going to keep listening to you? I have no idea who you are. So like there's a credibility component that's really important in the leads. There's qualifiers, right? Who this works for. Is it for everyone? Is it for a certain subset? Speaking to your market. This is for attention men and women over 50, attention accredited investors who have at least $1 million in income, attention agency owners who are doing between 3 to 5 leads, or getting between 3 to 5 clients per month and wish that it was 10 clients per month. Whatever it is, qualifying who this is, who you're talking to. If you try to be everything to everyone generally, that's not a good idea. So it's better to speak specifically to the niche or the people you're going after. Briefly addressing skepticism. And again, I know you feel like you've heard this all before. It sounds like bullshit, but it's not. You're going to see why inside. And then potentially testimonials. So that's the lead. I'm going to get to examples in a second. Does anyone have any questions on that before I do, though? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Nope. Okay. So the first one we're going to look at here is going to be the Angels and Entrepreneurs Summit, which I think somebody had requested for kind of the copy critique. So what I'm going to do with this one, basically as a spoiler, we're going to do this one. We're going to do this cannabis lots one. These are both financial. And then I have like an anti-aging one that I have seen this kind of trending upward, and I'd like the headline on it. So I decided to do that one. So we're going to go through these ones. But the way I want to do it is like today we're going to just focus on the leads for these 3. And that's all I've done as far as commenting so far goes. But then we're going to go through for each of them and see where they match up with my outline and where they may differ. So we're going to start with this one. I've taken them. Actually, I'll put the links in here for you guys in the chat. This is the first one. You guys have probably seen this one. Good old Hershevek and Neil Patel. So I've got it here. So I'm going to read through the lead, and then we're going to go back and look at it with markups on it. And this is kind of a transcript because if it is a video, they're on like a boat. They're talking. So Mike is the narrator. All right. Welcome to the Angels and Entrepreneurs Summit. I'm Mike Ward. Joining me for this historic event are Robert Hershevek and Neil Patel. Gentlemen, welcome. Here are the guys just hanging out on this yacht, living their best life. It's a pleasure. Glad to be here, Mike. Mike, for hundreds of years, a secret market has existed where the wealthy and powerful gain privileged access to the most lucrative business deals the world has ever seen. And in doing so, they changed the course of human history. Around the dawn of the 20th century, J.P. Morgan invests in Thomas Edison. Edison's light bulb would soon illuminate homes, businesses, and cities from coast to coast. And Morgan's windfall would help launch the iconic company General Electric. A few years later, Cornelius Vanderbilt invests in 2 brothers, Orville and Wilbur Wright, who ignited an era of flight that would eventually usher in the age of space travel. Without Vanderbilt's investment, the Wright Company would never become part of a $249 billion aviation firm, Boeing. Fast forward to 1968. Using the secret market, Silicon Valley pioneer Arthur Rock invests $10,000 in a low-known startup. It was developing the processors that would transform personal computing. That startup was Intel, and Rock's investment made him a billionaire. So he invested $10,000 to make $1 billion. Less than a decade later, another man who became a millionaire from Intel backs a brash founder whose own legacy will stand the test of time. That angel investor, Mike Marcola, that founder, Steve Jobs, and his Apple II personal computer launched America's first $1 trillion company. In 1980, when Apple IPO'd, Marcola's shares were worth $203 million, 2,552%. In the decades that followed, the rich continued to use the secret market, securing stakes in the hottest startups long before they IPO'd, long before Amazon, YouTube, and Facebook became household names, and the average American was locked out of these life-changing deals. You can see again more things. Most families are missing out on huge wealth creation opportunity, but not anymore. A powerful congressional act has now unleashed one of the biggest financial shifts in U.S. history. Finally, everyone can capitalize on the secret market, where startups go from obscurity to being worth billions of dollars in the blink of an eye, where one deal can transform a small amount of money into millions, and for some, even more. More proof elements here. And now, two of the most successful angel investors in the world are going to help you find them. Robert, you're the founder of the Hershevek Group, your cybersecurity firm that generates $250 million a year in revenue, but that's not why most folks know you. You also star in the Emmy Award-winning TV show Shark Tank. Robert says, unbelievable, isn't it? Never in a million years did we think a show about angel investing would become such a hit. Right, it's pretty clear you tapped into something. People have wanted to get a glimpse inside the world of angel investing. It's exciting, a little mysterious. They're constantly seeing stories about this person or that person making an absolute fortune from some unknown startup, suddenly becoming a household name like Uber, Airbnb, SpaceX, or Bird Scooters. And when you look at all the money flowing into these deals, it's astounding. And then that's just in the United States. The show, back in 1995, $8.1 billion was invested in startups. Early 2000s, you're looking at a little over $15 billion. Now it's $99.5 billion. And then Robert points out that if you add in Europe and Asia, it's over $204 billion. I'm going to keep going a little bit more, and then we're going to go to like my markups on this, but it's worth going through the whole lead here. Mike, there's clearly a lot of buzz around angel investing, but despite that, a lot of folks still aren't exactly sure what it means to be an angel investor or how to become one. Robert says, that's why we're here. Mike, so you're going to show them all of that, and that's in addition to the extraordinary angel investing examples we've already covered. And Neil says, right, and even though we can't guarantee that the incredible returns we covered are going to happen for every investor every time, even a fraction of these, even one can change your life. Robert, that's right. Mike, we've got a lot of ground to cover today. For the beginners watching, we're going to discuss Angel Investing 101. We're going to talk about how much more lucrative it can be to back startups versus stocks and how easy it is to get started. We're also going to talk about the risks because they're speculative investments. And then Mike says, yes. Mike says, that's why you've developed what you call your 1000x formula. It helps determine whether a startup could shoot up 1000x or whether it will go up in flames. And Neil says, but that's just one piece of the puzzle. That formula is only effective if you can get your hands on the hottest startup deals. If you wake up one morning and decide you want to become an angel investor, that doesn't mean the next Airbnb is going to knock on your door and beg for your money. Mike, so you're going to share your number one secret for finding billion-dollar deals. And you already have the scoop on 2 angel deals that made the cut. Neil, we do. Mike, let's jump right in. Okay, so that's like the lead here. Again, it's done in a like dialogue type way. But let's look at that from like a markup standpoint. And actually, you know what? Let me do this. 1 second. Let me pull back up the outline here. So we can see where this matches and where it doesn't. And you're going to notice it's not going to be like a direct match to my outline, but most of the elements are actually still going to be there. I'll make this so you can see both sides of this pretty clearly. So, all right. So one of the things we talk about is credibility builders. So one reason this promo is effective is because you've got Robert Hershevek, who everybody knows, and you've got Neil Patel, who I think people know to a much lesser extent, honestly. I think Neil Patel is a bit well known, but I think Robert Hershevek's way better known. In fact, I think when I see this, I'm like, good for Neil Patel, because this is increasing his notoriety dramatically. Kind of same thing that happened with James Altshuler when Agora used him for crypto. I think that's going to have, it's happening with Neil here because this promo has been massively successful. You can even talk about like the setting being a credibility builder as well, because they're on like this yacht and talking. So right away, they're sort of teasing something unique and contrarian, like a secret market. I would say that the mechanism of this offer is not going to be just that there's a secret market, but it's going to be about the 10,000. I'll actually come down and show you guys really quick. the blueprint thing, the 1000x formula is probably gonna be your mechanism. But the secret market is still sort of a fascination. It's contrarian. It's this thing that's sort of like, you know, it has a lure, wants you to keep reading. Just knowing about a secret market of like the ultra rich is like a fascinating concept or idea that kind of gets you to continue going, right? Where the wealthy and powerful gain privileged access to the most lucrative business deals the world has ever seen. So again, this is all sort of this contrarian secret market thing, right? Once we start talking about like the JP Morgan investing in Thomas Edison and Edison's light bulb illuminating homes and businesses, we talk about Vanderbilt and the Wright brothers, and we talk about Intel and Apple and all of that. What is all this doing, right? It's serving as proof, credibility, and more fascinations. You know, the most famous billionaires of all time made surprising investments in the projects of some of the most famous innovators of all time, and this led to financial windfalls. So there's like kind of already some kind of credibility or proof there, like that this is something that works because these people are the most famous billionaires ever. And then like we're talking about some of the most famous innovators of all time. And the fact that like the billionaires invested in the innovators, and then that's how they've got, it kind of makes sense. This is interesting sort of proof aspect right away in the lead. And of course, credibility, because you're talking about billionaires and Steve Jobs, and you've got Hirschbeck. I mean, there's like really, this whole thing is like a lot of credibility and proof, even though they're going to be making strong claims here later on. And of course, there's this implied promise. And you'll see this with financial, is there's a lot of implied promises more than maybe direct promises. Because again, all they're showing you is all of these crazy little investments that became massive windfalls. And they're not saying directly, you can do the same thing a bunch of times, but they are implying these promises there. And then there's kind of a fascination aspect, because like you may not have known that. Like I didn't know that JP Morgan invested in Edison or that Vanderbilt invested in the Wright brothers. And what's really cool is they're taking, more of us know about angel investing today, or we've heard about, you know, small investments in like Uber or Slack or whatever becoming really successful. But most of us don't realize that this has been happening for a really long time. And they're kind of looking at it and showing that Vanderbilt was an angel investor, that JP Morgan was an angel investor. So they're broadening the kind of context of this and making it feel like this like long-going trend, not something that's just brand new, but that's been going on for a long time. And it's sort of a curiosity aspect to that, because again, it's something that most people probably never thought of. Like I never would have thought of these old billionaires as being angel investors, but that's kind of how it's being presented to us here. So again, you got proof, you have some credibility, you have fascinations, you have something contrarian here. So you got contrarian, you've got like an implied promise, you got a fascination aspect of it, you've got a ton of credibility here. And again, sort of like, you know, in the decades that followed, the rich continued to use the secret market, securing stakes in the hottest startups long before they IPO'd, long before Amazon, YouTube, and Facebook became household names, and the average American was locked out of these life-changing deals. So again, here, there's like an element of contrarian stuff that normal investing, you know, doesn't work as well. There's more implied promises of returns. And I would also argue there's a little bit of emotion here. Again, financial, I think one thing that financial copywriters could do better is probably trying to inject a little more emotion than they do. And we'll get to that in a minute. But like, there is this idea of emotion of like, basically the rich are using this, they're getting like an unfair advantage, you're being locked out of these life-changing deals. So there's sort of like an emotional FOMO component to that of like I guess the emotion would be FOMO, fear of missing out, a little bit of jealousy, a little bit of envy, a little bit of like kind of despise, like feeling spite towards the billionaires and things of that nature. Right, but not anymore. A powerful congressional act has now unleashed one of the biggest financial shifts in U.S. history. Finally, everyone can capitalize on the secret market where startups go from obscurity to being worth billions of dollars in the blink of an eye, where one deal can transform a small amount of money into millions and for some even more. So this is really that first big promise. We talked about promises here. And also we talked about in time, right? Time being an aspect of the promise. Well, if you look here, right, you can access the secret market, find the next billion-dollar deal. 2 credible experts are going to help you do that. And like basically everyone can do it. And you can do it in like a blink of an eye. So blink of an eye is the time aspect of it. Everyone can capitalize on the secret market. So going back to a qualifier, who this works for, in this case, it is everyone, although really it's still not, because it's people who are interested in investing. But this is like your big promise. So it's a little bit buried here, but like you've already did all these implied promises of massive returns. So now we finally have this big promise.
I have a question. So
yeah.
like, essentially you don't have to go in order of every single piece, correct? Like,
Correct.
One second. I got somebody calling me. 1 second.
No problem. Okay. I kind of want to answer Mike's question, but I'll wait a minute until he's off this call. But the answer is no. You don't have to go through every piece. In fact, that's important. Okay, so this is and now two of the world's most successful angel investors are going to help you find them. So going back to like part of the promise there, the secret market, there's $1 billion deals. These experts are going to help you find it. And again, it's for everybody. So, Mike,
Sorry.
yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, it was just one of my sales guys.
No worries.
Yeah, so like essentially you don't have to go out in perfect order, like, you know, call out the problem, promise solution. Like it's kind of just mix and match a little bit. And those are all the pieces that you need to have in the lead.
Yeah, totally. 100%. I think, you know, for like very, 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 very new people, like it probably would like suit them well to follow it more closely in order. Because like otherwise I just think they might get a little confused. You know, I think the biggest ones you could switch are like the first maybe 3 here, because sometimes you're gonna lead with the emotion, sometimes you're gonna lead with a promise, sometimes you're gonna lead with the pain point. So I think like maybe, you know, again, for the very uninitiated, it may make sense to like be very strict, but for somebody who has a little bit more experience as a copywriter, yeah, it's more about just checking the boxes here.
Okay. Cause I mean, I've been writing copy for 10 years, you know, for mainly my own stuff. I feel like I'm decent. I'm not great, but like, even like it would be tough for me to kind of mix and match and kind of make it make sense, I guess, without actually looking at another piece of copy, like, you know, looking at something like this and then kind of modeling it. I wouldn't be able to like come up with it like without having kind of like a template.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I mean, I agree. I would generally still recommend people follow this, right? Because I mean, it's like, call it the problem, right? If you're struggling to get more than 5 new clients for your agency per month, and you're tired of the rat race, and you know you quit your job to start your agency to have more financial freedom, and yet you're working 120 hours a week, and you're never seeing your kids, and you're frustrated. And I want you to keep watching, because like inside this video, I'm going to show you an automated way to get at least another 20 clients per month and 100 new prospects, clients who want to work with you, who have money, who will pay you more, but you're going to do it all while working less hours, regain your freedom, spending more time with your family and your friends. I first discovered this system after I went from a millionaire to like broke and living in my parents' basement, and just realized that everything I've been taught about lead gen is completely wrong. You know, and in fact, like while most people are telling you to go out and get more clients, there's a secret called like the 5% client rule. And just employing this in my business, which is what I'm gonna show you how to do as well, is what allowed me to go from, you know, getting not just more clients, but better paying clients and less time. In fact, and besides just that, inside this presentation, I'm also going to show you like the surprising reason why XYZ fascination. And, you know, this is the same stuff that I've now taught to over 500 people who pay me an average of X amount of money per month. And it's the same that's allowed me to go from zero to a multi-million-dollar agency, as you can see in these screenshots. Well, now I'll show you how to do it too. And so this is for anybody who really wants to build an agency, who already has an agency, and you feel sick, tired, and fed up, right? Like, if that's you, and if you know how to use Facebook and you've been in business for at least 1 year, then this is something that can change your life. So I know you might be skeptical, but so have been a lot of people before they started using this system. And the last year since I've been doing this, like they've now seen XYZ gains and returns. And I promise you can too. In fact, this is what so-and-so says, testimonial, and this person testimonial, and this person testimonial. So let's get started. So like, if I'm like, you know, that's the thing, like, right? Just I'm trying to show you something kind of relevant to what you do, right? But like, you can it really just going in order, it really makes sense. And you can do the same thing for health or anything else. So I do still prefer kind of going in this order, I think. But I guess at the same time, it's like for some verticals or niches, the problem is this, right? Like this is the way I would do it. But if I want to look at other people's copy and it's been successful and they didn't follow my outline like perfectly. But I think the point is more so like, even with that being the case, if you look at what is there, it's like they still are checking all the boxes. They're just doing it like in a different order sometimes.
Okay. Yeah, that was the big thing, because I know I just have a problem with kind of writing without an actual template or whatever. So just wondering.
Yeah, cool. No, that makes sense. But yeah, I think the template's ideal for sure. Jamie just said, when I've tried to follow the order exactly, it was flipping hard, but when I wrote and then go back through it and look for what's missing, it helped. Cool. Yeah. Luke asked, what was the contrarian nature of the mechanism here? Did I miss that? Yeah, it's just something like this is basically what I'm going to share with you flies in the face of what you've been told before. So like, I'm going to show you again, like, for example, why the weird salt trick that can help lower your blood pressure in the next like 15 days, which is like, that alone would be contrarian, because like, are you talking about in this thing, Luca, in this document? Let me say, yeah, I don't think I brought up the contrarian thing yet, I guess the contrarian thing was actually sort of, it wasn't necessarily mechanism side. It was more about this idea of like there being this, like a secret market. And I guess the contrarian aspect throughout this is kind of like the idea that like investing in stocks is for suckers, and there's a secret market, which is where the real wealth is made. And so the contrarian aspect here is sort of like that stocks aren't as smart. In fact, you're going to get to that a little bit more. Let me find the example here. I may not have gotten to that part of it yet. No, there's a second part to it, Luca, that I'll get to in a minute, on the contrarian stuff too. So like, okay, so next in this part, right, we're talking about like Robert Herjavec, founder of the Herjavec Group, a cybersecurity firm that generates $250 million a year in revenue, Shark Tank, right? That's all credibility. And it's, again, kind of tying that promise of teaching you about investing, because even with Shark Tank, like they're immediately taking Shark Tank, which everyone knows, and they're tying that back to like angel investing, which is what whole thing is about here. And basically, like, people have wanted to get a glimpse inside this world of angel investing. It's exciting, a little mysterious. They're constantly seeing stories about this person or that person making an absolute fortune from some unknown startup, suddenly becoming a household name like Uber, Airbnb, SpaceX, or Bird Scooters. So it's kind of more credibility or proof elements. It's not like a testimonial, but because these things are so public, everyone kind of knows that Uber sold, is valued at like billions of dollars, and Airbnb and SpaceX and all that. So like, there's this sort of implied credibility and proof here. Like, no one's going to argue with that. No one can see that who's really their target demographic and be like, no, Airbnb is not worth a bunch of money, or Uber's not, or it didn't become worth a bunch. It's like, that's just a clear, obvious fact, but it does help. These sort of things here are kind of taking the place of testimonials. Like, they're not testimonials, but they're, and they're not income claims. But again, they're showing all of this proof about angel investing returns and windfalls. So it's very similar. And that's like, you'll see a ton of that, like all these different, documents really. And they're also, what's smart about this from a compliance standpoint is, again, they're not making income claims of like, hey, you're going to make all this money, right? This is what financial does really well, financial copy, is that instead it sort of just shows all these returns that have happened. It's like, just like leaves them there. And from a human greed is strong enough that you're going to be like, oh, I want those returns. Like, every time I read financial copy, I'm like, God, I want that. So yeah. Again, more proof and credibility. Just kind of talking about how it's like this emerging trend. In 1995, 8.1 billion was invested in startups. In the early 2000s, it was 15 billion. Now it's 99.5 billion. But now it's really 204 billion. So proof, credibility. People were doing this. It's like a trend. Things like that. Showing like the increase in investments in startups. And then this is going to be like a pain point and maybe a little bit more of a qualifier too, but right, there's clearly a lot of buzz about angel investing, but despite that, a lot of folks still aren't exactly sure what it means to be an angel investor or how to become one. That's a pretty like weak little pain point, but I think the thing is there, like, you've seen all these gains about angel investing and then you don't know how to do it. So that alone is kind of a pain point you have right now. And it's not like a very strong emotional pain point. And I'm going to talk about that more in a minute, but there's a little bit like a FOMO-y kind of I call it FOMO pain. There's some FOMO pain here. And we've got more promises, right? So you're going to show them all of that. That's in addition to the extraordinary angel investing examples we've already covered. So you're going to show them basically how to be an angel investor, what it is, like that's a promise. And then we'll get back to the qualifiers. For the beginners watching, we're going to discuss Angel Investing 101. We're going to talk about how much more lucrative it can be to back startups versus stocks and how easy it is to get started. So again, for qualifiers, if I'm a beginner, is this for me? Yes. Because we're going to give you the 101 on this. So you're qualifying that is for you. Luca, back to the contrarian question, because one of the contrarian components here is sort of just, I don't know if it's really that contrarian, but kind of is the idea of like, it's more lucrative to back startups versus stocks. And they show it again right here, like startups versus stocks, angel investors get, 280,000% return. IPO investors get 184% return. So they're kind of making it clear, like it's contrarian. If you think that investing in IPOs is smart, that's actually for suckers, and angel investors where the real money is at. They do have a lot of compliance stuff here. We're talking about risk because there are speculative investments. But then they're actually going to like kind of intelligently look into the problem. They kind of intelligently do that. So, because like, all right, we're also going to talk about the risk because these are speculative investments. But that's why you've developed what you call your 1000x formula.
I got a quick question.
Let me just finish this part real quick. It helps determine whether a startup could shoot up 1000x or whether it will just go up in flames. Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Mike.
Well, to be honest with you, like the 1000x formula sounds like terrible. It sounds like so basic. Like, what are your thoughts on that? Like, I could like if I was just spitballing, hey, yeah, the 1000x formula. Like, do you think it's because they just want to keep it simple, or it's just that's what they chose? Like, do you think there's any reasoning behind it?
Yeah, I don't know. I agree with you. It's like not really that appealing or alluring at all. I think it's probably like, I mean, it implies like the returns, which I guess is good. I think they're able to get away with this because of the credibility of like Hershevek and Neil Patel, and all of the claims about all of these companies that then went from, a small investment that's worth a fortune. And so I think that's why, why, and I guess people do want to know that metric of like why a startup could shoot up 1000x. But I agree. I actually don't think it's really that strong either. I think there could be a more interesting name for it. Justin, I'm curious what you think about that, but not to throw you on the spot there.
The 1000x part?
Yeah.
Yeah, same thoughts as you. It's kind of generic. They could have definitely used this sexier name, but like you said, I mean, from everybody I've talked to who's kind of running traffic for the software and knows the ins and outs of it, like the whole thing's just working because of Hershevek.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. That's what I agree with that. With the Hershevek thing, so I'm not surprised to hear that. But
with that being said, then like, have you guys ever tested going out and getting like a notable guy for your copy to actually be like the face and like seeing a huge like increase in conversions, or like, obviously like an average guy, I can't go out and get Robert Hershevek. He probably wanted $1 million up front and then whatever. But let's say like maybe some smaller celebrity, like, like, have you guys ever tested that? And like, what would your process be to say, hey, go out and get a celebrity, like just hit up their rep or whatever?
Let's hold this to the end. I don't want to ruin Stefan's flow.
That's okay. But yeah, I do want to circle back on that, Mike, because that's a really good question. But after I get through this, we'll circle back to it. But yeah, but the one cool thing, right, it's like, oh, it's speculative, like disclaimer, but that's why we created this formula, so that it's less risky. So it's kind of like an interesting way of like they're still addressing the speculative aspect of it, but then they're immediately kind of like being like, but this formula will help. And then, Mike, right here, here's just like not Mike Bontempo, but Mike of the narrator. This is like a stone cold fascination that is kind of throw it in. By the way, Grace, I'll get to your question too, right? So you're going to share your number one secret for finding $1 billion deals, and you already have the scoop on 2 angel deals that made the cut. We do. Like, great, let's jump right in. Grace, as far as teasing your mechanism name towards the end of the lead, it's not necessarily the order or location. It's not in the first couple sentences normally, but again, it may be like really like, I mean, like here, in fact, like going back to like a thing I discovered after all this hardship, You know, the weird like sitting Buddha approach for losing up to 10 pounds of fat in the next like 25 days, something that doesn't require any dating or dieting, etc. So I actually probably have it higher more often than lower later. I mean, in their cases, it just happens to be how they do it. But I probably have it usually in the first half of the lead versus the second half, to answer your question. So that's kind of the end of the lead. So again, and what I'm going to do is I want to go through this and do the markup for everything else too. I haven't, done it yet, but I will as we go through different sections. But my kind of comments on it, right, is like, I guess there's two things I think they could have done better, actually, really. So I think why this works really is a lot of it's the credibility aspect of it. And they've got tons of proof, but really it's Robert Herjavec. He's on Shark Tank. People know he makes small investments, and then sometimes they make lots of money. And now it's like, hey, we're gonna teach you how to do that too. That's really what this promo is. I do think they could have played with the emotional aspect a little bit more, though. A little more emotion about pain of not getting what you want in life, the pleasure of hitting a gold mine through angel investing. I don't think you have to. I think you can do that and stay compliant. Something like even a couple of sentences of in fact, now it's open to anybody, even people who currently feel frustrated that their retirement portfolio isn't where it needs to be and are worried that they'll keep working, forever. I just have noticed in financial copy a lot of times that they just don't do that. They don't use emotion. I think they really play on greed and the promise of returns. And for me, I get it. And obviously shit works, but I think it's interesting. I still have at some point I'm writing one for Agora Financial. I got to talk with Joe about it, but they paid me and I know Joe might watch this, but they paid me fucking 9 months ago or something. And then we both got busy. But when I do it, I really want to use my outline for this. And I really want to inject more emotion, and maybe it will suck, but I kind of just have a feeling that it's going to help quite a bit. So I think they could have done more emotion in here. And I think it's kind of a missed opportunity a lot of times on the financial side. And I actually think they could have been qualified a little bit better as well. The idea of you don't need to invest even $10,000 to make money through angel investing, because what you're going to see pretty soon early on in this, they start talking about. Let me just get a little bit. Obviously, we won't go too deep, but let me get to this really quick here. Let's say that 50,000 here. At some point, I won't spend much time. They start. No. At some point they start about how you can invest $100 or $25, which to me is kind of bullshit. I don't know how you're going to invest $100 as an angel investor, and I actually haven't read the entire promo yet. But I do think one missed opportunity they have is sort of better, if that's the case, qualifying that even more so that people are well, yeah, but I don't even have $10,000 to invest. I think why not being this is actually something that now anyone can do it, and even if they've only got $500 or less than $1,000 or whatever, I think if they'd done that, that would probably strengthen the copy as well. And then I do agree with Mike again about the mechanism and the 1,000 kind of X thing, that's kind of not the strongest mechanism either. But still, so what did it hit? Doesn't really call it the problem, to be honest with you. It promises solutions for sure, including ones about time, definitely solutions about money. It doesn't tease an emotional discovery story, which actually would also have been effective in the lead, because later on the copy, once it gets through this, you're going to see it starts going into Neil Herjavec's story of an immigrant family. Let me get to it. That came over on a boat and his parents working all this extra time. It's about Neil Patel's emotional story. So I actually think they could have teased the emotional story more. There's a little bit of emotion, I guess, of just the rich get to do this and you don't. Unique mechanism, yes, I would say the 1,000x thing. Contrarian nature, there is a little bit actually of that, I would say, because again, it's IPOs are for suckers, angel investing is the real secret. There are specific direct fascinations, the number one secret for billion-dollar investments. Credibility is this whole thing could just be highlighted. This should be size 25,000 and everything else is smaller, because this whole thing is built on credibility. It does have qualifiers, who it works for. It doesn't address skepticism directly. However, because of all the credibility, I think they're leveraging that. And while it does have testimonials, it does have a shit ton of proof elements as far as the returns go and things of that nature. So it still does check a lot of these boxes, just not necessarily in this order. Does anyone have, I know Mike had his question. Does anyone else have any questions on what we just looked at here? Okay. So I mean, I've got 2 more examples, but I do think there's I'm going to show one more for now. I'm going to just go to a health one. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 2 things. Let me say this. I want to show you one thing from the other financial one. I'm going to make sure you guys get access to all of these.
Stefan, I have a quick question.
But
this is Matt.
Yeah.
Just the credibility builders at the start. I've seen ones where they say, "Hey, I'm no one special. I'm just like you. You know, I don't have any kind of special website, and I'm no one famous, but I was lucky somehow." And some of these seem to do pretty well. What do you think about that? Have you ever had success doing that yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that's 95% of the sales letters I write are that. But there's still credibility because you're like, in fact, it wasn't until I discovered this weird loophole that was made, first found by Harvard scientists, including Dr. So-and-so who won the Nobel Prize, and realized that held the secret to this. So I'm nobody special, but I found the work of other special people, and I'm bringing you their special, credible research. So I mean, that's like the template there for sure.
Right. Okay. So as long as you give a little bit of backup evidence kind of thing, which sounds intriguing, then that's enough for credibility.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the biggest thing. Like if you look at like with health, it's like, oh, it's Harvard, Johns Hopkins, Yale, whatever. But even for financial, if you were just like an everyday guy, but like basically, this is something that was used by 3 Nobel Prize winning economists, or like, whatever it is, or BizOp, like credibility of like, yourself and your returns, but also maybe like, in fact, it's something I learned from XYZ expert who's like a billionaire and who, I got to have coffee with for an hour or whatever. You're always, credibility is extremely important, but yeah, you don't need to be like a famous expert guy for it to be effective. Any other questions?
Okay.
So because it's already 10:48, I want to show a health one because that's going to, in some aspects, adhere a little bit closer to this one. But I just want to note one interesting thing about this cannabis lots one, which I'm going to pop in the link for you guys in the chat as well. What you're going to see with this one, which again I will share with you guys, one really interesting thing that they're going to do here, and this is again about these cannabis lots and how you can invest in them. But basically, one of the most interesting things I noticed was like, if the federal government is still classifying it as an illegal drug, banks have withheld capital from even the largest publicly traded cultivators and facilities. This has limited their ability to expand their operations, allocate resources to advance medical research, and bring new technologies to the market. But recently, the SEC allowed a special workaround, a powerful financial mechanism that could change the industry forever. A mechanism that can help further establish key cannabis companies so they can attract capital from outside the traditional banking industry, and that is absolutely critical. So the reason I wanted to note that really quick on this one, which you guys can read on your own time, and maybe we'll go over a different call, is it's very similar to the angel investing thing, right? It was off limits. It was only for a few people, but recently a new government regulation thing has changed it, and now suddenly it's available to everybody, right? And so if you go back to the angel one, which I don't know if I exit out or if this is back here, I can see it on this page. A powerful congressional act has now unleashed one of the biggest financial shifts in history. Finally, everyone can capitalize on this market. So it's just worth noting that interesting similarity between these 2 offers. And like, so if I'm running financial, I'm like, wow, okay, that seems to be a proven template. Are they doing that in more offers? So I just wanted to note that part really quick here because I think that's interesting. That's like they're probably doing that repeatedly because it works, I would guess. So I'll go into this one more on a different call, and I'm going to make sure you have access to my comments and notes. I'm going to go to this health one really quick, and then Mike, we will get back to your question, of course. This last one here is honestly actually not even the best sales letter, but you can let me go transcript. But I really like the headline, and I've seen that this thing has been trending a little bit. It's not doing massive volume, but it is going up. So I want to show you guys this one really quick here. I'm going to do it. Let's hide the markup first. This is a pretty short lead too. Breaking news, and this isn't the headline like you guys saw. Again, the headline, Beverly Hills housekeeper shocks doctors, avoids Botox, do this instead. That's their headline. So this is actually in the transcript of the sales letter, or sales video. So breaking news, if you're over 50 years old and you want to erase facial wrinkles, Beverly Hills Housekeeper reveals fake facelifts are all natural and make you look 10 to 20 years younger in seconds. If you want your skin to look younger, this will be the most important thing you ever see. Here's why. You can look younger, much younger than anyone has shown you. And I'll prove it to you right now. Look at this picture. This woman didn't get plastic surgery. She didn't do any invasive procedures or buy some ridiculously expensive skincare regime kit. She used the new avocado trick that's sweeping the nation. Yes, and if you're ready to rub 15 years off your looks, then today is your lucky day. Rest assured, you will look younger if you do this too. I can promise you that because it's happening for thousands of women across this country at this very moment. This craze started thanks to the bizarre story of a Beverly Hills housekeeper who discovered the all-natural, dirt-cheap skincare secret of famous Hollywood celebrities. It starts with an avocado and ends with you looking 10 to 20 years younger. And right now, you can see it happen for yourself. But I must warn you, you should be sure to watch this video right now and don't click away because this video may be taken down at any moment. Unfortunately, large skincare companies are devastated that this little secret is being revealed because it's costing them billions of dollars. Plastic surgeons too. You see, they're all trying to silence me and have this presentation permanently banned from the internet because it's left a huge hole in their pocket. But their loss is your gain. This avocado secret was only known to the wealthy elite of Beverly Hills and Hollywood, California. Discovered by a modest housekeeper who requests to remain anonymous. She brought the secret to us, and now look what it's doing for people like you. And they've got testimonials right here. And it's going to go into the sales letter from that part on. So let's look at this markup really quick.
Stefan, one thing I want to chime in with. So a lot of the copy that gets posted in the Copy Accelerator group usually lacks some type of unique hook. Like this one, having the housekeeper who discovered this in Beverly Hills is a great hook. Because like, as you said, like the copy on this actually isn't anything great.
Good. Yeah.
It's pretty just kind of like blunt and repetitive of everything else you've seen. But the hook of the Beverly Hills housekeeper is really interesting. And then obviously the avocado thing, they definitely got a good copywriter could have made this way more appealing. But yeah, I just wanted to point out that hook of the Beverly Hills housekeeper, because that's an interesting story that gets you into it and makes you want to keep listening more so than just telling us information like a lot of people do.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, Justin. I 100% agree. The copy, the lead, it's just blunt promises, like you said. But the reason this works and why I noticed it a couple months ago and I looked at the trend and the traffic's been going up on it, it's got to be the hook more than anything else. And a few other elements, which we'll get to. Because even after the lead, like it kind of just goes into these ingredients super fast. There's not a whole huge background story. It doesn't have a bunch of other stuff. Although maybe it doesn't the video. I wonder if maybe I'm going to try and get the video transcript, but at least in the text letter it doesn't. But again, I think the hook is appealing enough that it gets people to keep watching, and that's really the main focus of the lead and the promo. So yeah. I want to know who does this because like I want to come in. I could write like a murderous sales letter for them. Taking these ideas and making them better. Right. So there's an instant qualifier though, right? If you're over 50 years old and you want to erase facial wrinkles, so you do have your qualifier. Who's this for? It's for people who are over 50 years old and who want to erase facial wrinkles. It also does kind of call out the problem, right? The problem is facial wrinkles. And so if you're over 50 and you want to erase facial wrinkles, Beverly Hills housekeeper reveals fake facelifts are all natural and make you look 10 to 20 years younger in seconds. It's a little weirdly written, to be honest with you, but there's a huge promise, right? To sort of look 10 to 20 years younger in seconds. It does tease the unique mechanism of fake facelifts, although the avocado thing is really to be probably more of the mechanism. But there's also this fascination and curiosity aspect with like Beverly Hills housekeeper. And I put this almost a proof element there because like, well, she's a housekeeper in Beverly Hills. Like she would know like the, secrets of the ultra rich. And so it's kind of an interesting thing. Like, I don't know. The hook is great. I love the headline and the hook of this. Again, more qualifiers. If you want your skin to look younger, then this will be the most important thing you ever see. So why is that a qualifier? Well, again, hey, if you want your skin to look younger, that's a qualifier. If that's you need to see this. If you don't want your skin to look younger, then you should probably click away because this isn't for you. And there's a lot of promises in this lead. You can look younger, much younger than anyone has shown you, and I'll prove it to you right now. Look at this picture. This is their, kind of attempt at a credibility or a proof element. It's kind of like a pretty bad before after. It could definitely have more credibility and proof elements than this lead, and it probably would do better. But they're trying to like, there's a fascination here, but also contrarian nature too, right? Because this woman didn't get plastic surgery. She didn't do any invasive procedures or buy some ridiculously expensive skincare regime kit. She used the new avocado trick that's sweeping the nation. So the avocado trick is a kind of fascinating element, but it's also the mechanism, like the unique mechanism for this is like this avocado trick.
Stefan,
it's contrarian because again, it wasn't plastic surgery. It wasn't, yeah.
Just can't help thinking that avocado trick gives a little bit away, and someone will go and Google it and get distracted. Would it not be better to leave it a bit mysterious? You know, like this exotic fruit or something.
I don't think it necessarily gives it away, because what if you Google avocado trick? You may find a bunch of avocado stuff, but I don't know if that gives away. It's not like there's one avocado trick. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay.
I get what you're saying, but I don't think so. In fact, I think that's, you do want some specificity sometimes. So I think in a case like this, if they're like the new avocado trick, that's, sweeping the nation, where you take 2 peels of avocados, press them under your eyes, hold them for 15 seconds, and your wrinkles go away, right? That would be bad. But I think in this case, avocado trick, it's more. I think it's good having that because of the curiosity that it invokes.
Okay.
Right. So it's contrarian because, again, invasive procedures. It's not about that. It's not about skincare regimes. It's not plastic surgery. Instead, it's putting an avocado. Use some kind of avocado trick. Again, another big promise. If you're ready to rub 15 years off your looks, today is your lucky day. If you look younger if you do this too. By the way, all the exclamation points here is typically like a sign of like a more beginner copywriter. You generally don't like just like throw, like, it's sensational enough without you having to like be like, yeah. So like just try and stay away from loading up your copy of exclamation points. Some implied proof and credibility. I can promise you that's going to work because it's happening for thousands of women across the country at this very moment. It's not super strong, but they're trying to show you proof and credibility. It's working for people. This is also like, I'm promising, if you're skeptical, I promise it's going to work. It's not a great job of addressing the skepticism, but that is what they're trying to do here. This craze started thanks to the bizarre story of Beverly Hills housekeeper who discovered the all-natural, dirt cheap skincare secret of famous Hollywood celebrities. Fascination here, right? It's the hook again, but the hook is also kind of a fascination. It starts with an avocado and ends with you looking 10 to 20 years younger. Actually, that's a very good subhead or like line there. So again, promise, bit of the mechanism. It's fascinating. You're able to see it happen for yourself. Another promise. Then there's that whole classic, the powers that be don't want you to see this, which I don't have in my outline, but that's something that's obviously pretty common. There's a little bit of implied emotion here. Again, not a ton, but the idea of like, it was only for the wealthy elite of Beverly Hills and Hollywood. It was discovered by a modest housekeeper who wants to remain anonymous. Kind of like the whole idea of like the modest housekeeper versus the wealthy elite, the whole secret idea of like the wealthy having this stuff that you don't get access to, the kind of FOMO. I call it FOMO pain, which I just made up today, but that's like my name for that sort of pain point of like, you don't get to have access to this and that hurts. Could definitely have some more emotion in this, but that's really is what it is. And then it just has these testimonials. So going back to the outline, right? The problem is called out right away of like erase, of facial wrinkles, basically, and wanting to erase facial wrinkles. Promise of solution, tons of those. It does promise to save time and money because it's happening in seconds. It's not expensive facelifts or surgeries or things like that. Teases a discovery story. It's not an emotional story necessarily, but there's a discovery story there of like the modest housekeeper who, finds out the secret of the rich of Beverly Hills and Hollywood. Unique mechanism, yeah. And like the avocado trick kind of being a fake facelift. Contrarian because, again, it doesn't have to like do with like Botox or facelifts or things like that. Facelifts or fascinations, the avocado trick is a fascination. The story is kind of a fascination in its own right. Credibility builders, kind of, they try, like Hollywood celebrities, okay. Lots of people are doing it, like, okay. It'd be great that's saying, like, in fact, now one of the top skincare doctors in the world, when he recently saw it, he said like, wow, I can't believe no one had shared this with the public before. And he would know because he was like head of dermatology at Harvard's renowned skin care, like university, whatever the fuck, but like there could be better credibility there. Qualifiers, over 50 years old, want to get rid of wrinkles, the other qualifiers there. Tries to address skepticism, doesn't do a great job, but it tries, and it includes a few broad testimonials. So again, while I think this lead's definitely not perfect and could actually be much better, they are marking or checking pretty much everything on this list. And so I think that's important. Again, I think that's why this thing is actually doing decently okay. I do want to see if the video is because this one goes into the ingredients really fast, but it could be that they didn't want to have the whole story in print. So I'll have to look into that, and I'll find out before our next call. But again, lead, that does check all the boxes there. Okay, so again, I'm going to return to Mike's question in a minute. That's a broader question. So is there any more questions on this lead stuff that you guys have? Okay. Well, if you think of any, let us know. Mike, back to your question. We've used doctors like on video, but not super famous doctors or celebrities. And that's gotten mixed results. In doing this stuff, like even looking at these videos today, the two from Agora for the pot one and the Shark Tank one, it did make me think about how I really should do that. I feel like I would do it for my own. I've done it for other clients. Like I just did one with, I'm supposed to say it or not, but whatever. With like Tony Horton from like P90X for Golden Hippo. Like, so I wrote a whole thing for Tony Horton. But Golden Hippo does it all the time, right? So like that's part of their whole model. Like with Gundry, although if you talk with Craig will say, well, Gundry wasn't super well known before me. I helped make him well known, and he's not saying like a bragging way, but it's true. So it does go two ways. I mean, Gundry had an incredible like kind of resume, but he wasn't actually really all that famous until Craig came in and Golden Hippo and they made him famous. So that's one path, and then there's the other path is like the people who are really famous already. Anecdotally, I can tell you though too, like it's like I have like one friend of mine for his last company, they had the dude from Breaking Bad, the main guy, Bryan Cranston, right? And he basically was friends with the co-founder of their company. So they had these video ads for like a fasting product with Bryan Cranston talking about it. They were running them on Facebook, going to the page, and then they had Vanna White as well, who the guy was also friends with. And their like CPAs were I think like $40 on Facebook with like $150 AOVs, $200 AOVs. But then at Comic-Con, somebody asked Bryan Cranston like, "Hey, we saw this like fasting that you're promoting," and I guess Bryan got kind of freaked out and was like, "Hey, you can put me on the website, but you can't make me the focal point. You can't use me in your ads and all of that." And it was like their run rate went from 17.5 million to like 6 million. Just because they couldn't use Bryan Cranston anymore. And then like their CPAs went up from like $40 to like $85. So the point being like the celebrity stuff like really does work. And that's just one. I could several other friends where it's the same thing where they've used celebrities and like leverage that. So yeah, I do think it's a really smart idea. And if you can do it, you should do it.
Yeah, I'll chime in for a couple of people I know who have done this successfully. Joe Barton did it successfully with Mike Huckabee for his diabetes product, which was like an absolute perfect fit because the market he was selling to was 60, 70-year-old conservative people who had diabetes. Mike Huckabee is a former conservative governor, was on Fox News. He also has a pretty well-known story that he had diabetes and lost a bunch of weight. I remember Joe saying that the ads they were running with Huckabee, like Joe was making like $100,000 a day for like 2 weeks, and they were just absolutely crushing. And then that was like right before Mike decided to run for president in like 2016. So he like ended the deal, and the whole thing, went away, which is probably terrible when you have something working that well. But yeah, from the numerous people I've talked to who have done celebrity stuff, it's very hit and miss. So if you're going to do it, you definitely just do a testing period. Because if it converts at the right kind of number where you're like, holy shit, this is incredible, then obviously you'll be like, okay, I'll pay you. You'll be able to pay them a ton more, and it'll be well worth it. So yeah, some type of testing period. I would never sign any long-term deal without testing that for at least a month.
And let me just, Mike, before you talk, one other thing to throw in there too is like, I think you would be surprised though, if you have the credibility and the track record, you'd be surprised how many pretty well-known people actually don't want or need money up front. They're more interested in like the ongoing royalties and performance stuff, especially because there's a lot of famous celebrities and people like that who, yeah, they make money, but they don't have any idea how to like make money online, or maybe they have endorsement deals. They get endorsement deals all the time for like 10 grand, 20 grand, whatever. And so they're more interested in the idea of like making a bunch of money ongoing through selling online, and they probably feel like they're being under leveraged there. So you'd be surprised at how many of those people you can probably get for very little money, but a royalty deal. And then the other side of that too is I think you'll also be surprised at how little you can pay for certain people. It depends. Like in your niche of biz op, this may not be quite as applicable, although it could be. But even like professional athletes, for example, because of like social media and influencers and all these sort of like ways that people reach these athletes. Because I own 5% of a sports agency, which we have some guys in the NFL and Major League Baseball, and my best friend's the majority owner in it. And so like we do endorsement deals for these clients. Which, by the way, I should use it for my own shit, but that's something I'll get back to that later. But basically, because of that, what we see is like there's so many things going on that like these athletes who used to charge like hundreds of thousands of dollars for endorsements are now doing them for like 10 grand, 15 grand. I mean, you can get Peyton Manning for like under 50 grand for sure. You know what I mean? Like you can get very famous people for a lot less money than it used to be, at least when it comes to like kind of athletes and in some cases like celebrities. And again, the reason why is just because like the market's changed. Tim says they pay a flat rate per month, 5 to 10K, no royalties. So yeah, that works too. And you're working with like golfers mostly, right, Tim? This is for moonshot and everything, I would guess. Yeah. But okay. But Mike, go ahead. I just wanted to make that point.
So what I'm wondering is like let you know, I'm a big baseball guy. I don't think getting like, let's just say Barry Bonds or, you know, one of those guys, Alex Rodriguez, whatever, would have really anything to do with business, but maybe it would. Maybe it could lend me some credibility. So would it make more sense that, hey, I got to go get a business guy? You know, like we have a client right now that got an endorsement from Mr. Wonderful, and we run that ad. I mean, that does really well. So I'm wondering, like, you know, does it have to be in the same type of niche? Like, would a business guy have to kind of endorse me compared to, let's just say, like a sports guy or a celebrity?
No, I think a lot of it depends on the crowd you're going to. If you're going to a younger crowd that's, I don't know, let's say you have a lot of African Americans and minorities, like someone like Floyd Mayweather might really appeal to them. Whereas someone like Mark Cuban is not going to appeal to them at all. So, I mean, I think it's much more about matching who the buyer is to the celebrity more than the actual like niche even.
And I think the other thing too, I agree with Justin. And then like, cause plus like these guys are all business guys too. Like all these athletes don't think of themselves as just athletes. They think of themselves as like businessmen. So like, you know, Peyton Manning owns something like 300 Papa John's franchises. You know, Shaquille O'Neal owns like hundreds of like Taco Bells or some like, you know, those are just examples, right? But Floyd Mayweather, you know, he's investing in all of these things. So it's like you could still take what they're doing even and find a way to tie that in of like, you know, like, look, like I do this franchise model where, you know, I have a bunch of things that are all bringing income streams for me. And like that works for that. But what's crazy is that people could be doing it online too. And you're like, oh, you can? Like, you know what I mean? Like you could like almost do it like that way. So if you get creative, you can actually tie in that. But almost all these famous athletes have like, they're involved in just shit tons of business deals. And some of them suck and some of them don't. Like Russell Wilson just sold a business for like some athletic gear startup to like Nike. But like, you know, so yeah, I think thinking of it that way, it doesn't have to be a business person.
One thing I'd add on our side, Stefan, like we've had a lot of experience this in the golf market, but I would say like I probably lost millions of dollars in royalties that I never had to pay.
Right.
So we've found that the personality is by far more important than the celebrity name. So if the guy has a great personality they can bond with, it matches the market, like that's bingo. But like celebrity that has a bad personality sucks for the brand.
Right.
That's our experience. But personality is everything when I look for like a spokesman for me. So.
That's cool. That's a really great insight, Tim. I appreciate that. And Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, for us with doctors, which is like not quite the same, but whenever we use doctors, we just give them a flat fee. I never give the doctors royalties. I know tons of guys who are paying these doctors absurd royalties. Well, that's not true, actually. One doctor we're working with now gets a small little cut on stuff with a cap. But for the most part, we never, because like people always think that they pay doctors a shit ton of money in royalties, and it's like we pay doctors like $3,000 one time to like use them, and they're like, okay, like they're totally fine, you know.
They don't understand our market, so it's like money falling from the sky.
Yeah,
for them, they don't get what we do, you know. So
yeah, totally. And they're like, you know, again, especially with doctors. Yeah, no, you're totally right. And then if something gets really successful, I'm going to try and throw them maybe some more opportunities to make more money because I want them to stay happy. You know, it's like that guy, Dr. Williams, for the blood sugar GS85. Like, I think he got paid $3,000 or $5,000 initially. But then we probably paid him another $20,000 or $30,000 over the last like year, like just on doing additional video and content and stuff like that. So he's getting paid to work, but then he's happy because he's still getting paid more money, and it's like, you know, very easy for him. But yeah. Any other questions, guys? Oh, Lucas, sorry, let me respond to yours real quick. So you kind of asked again, what are the main or glaring issues I have with the skincare product lead? Yeah, I think the biggest one I would have there is, I don't know if it's an issue, but doesn't tease like it teases a cool discovery story. Doesn't have a ton of emotion to it, but that might be okay. It doesn't really have credibility builders, and I think that could have been done better. So that's a big one for me. It doesn't really address the skepticism, and that's another one for me. Those are probably my biggest ones would be credibility builders and skepticism being addressed. Any other questions? Is this helpful, guys, or was it like too much? Like, be honest with me.
Yeah, I found it helpful, definitely, to really drum down the importance of this. It's easy to forget that including these elements may be much more important than we realize.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, I appreciate hearing that. Yeah, again, if you just look, I mean, it's fun. You guys can do this as like as a practice of your own, and like going and looking at the leads of letters that you admire in your niche or category that you write in, or, you know, competitors, or if you're about to write a project, looking at what the controls are and seeing, you know, where they match this and where they don't. And then maybe look at some shitty ones that, you know, totally bombed and see where they match this and where they don't as well. It's a good exercise to do. Okay, last chance for questions anybody might have. We'll get these resources up into the members area as well, of course. All right. Well, then that's going to conclude this gold portion of the call. A quick reminder: on Thursday is going to be the second of the kind of the compliance review calls we do Tried and True Media. I'm going to do a post on that a bit later today after the call, which will have the email again where you'll send your stuff that if you want to have it reviewed. So that'll be Thursday at the same time as our Copy Accelerator calls are. So Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Again, I'll put a post in today in the Facebook group as well as a link, and then they'll record that as well. But, you know, it'd be great for you guys to be there and be interacting on it.
Real quick question.
Yeah.
The first call, they didn't review anything, correct? It was just
Yeah, they tried to kind of like answer questions that were related to what people would ask for feedback and reviews. But I'll be honest with you, I kind of expected them to go a little more like specific to the things that were requested. So I want to see what they do on this call, and if they don't go specific to the things that have been submitted, then I will talk with them and kind of like realign that so that they do. But I think it may have been this is the first one they felt like by teaching these specific concepts that they then would be applied to people's questions. So I think that's why they did it that way. But yeah, if they don't get like more in depth, I'm telling them they have to get more like granular.
Yeah, because I sent in that stem cell book and I looked through the replay. I was just looking to see what they, you know, had to say. I mean,
Right.
So far it's been okay on Facebook, but I just wanted to see. I changed a lot of the stuff that you told me to change.
Yeah.
And so yeah.
Okay, good. But I'll just talk to them before this call even and kind of make sure that they actually get into the specific things that people ask for. So let me make it do that. Thank you. Okay, cool. Other than that, though, this is going to conclude our gold portion of the call. So, guys, go ahead and you can hop off here. And if you have any, feedback that you need help with, just post in the Facebook group. As always, Justin and I are there to help. And other than that, have a great, awesome week. And then for Platinum, we will come back at, let's say, 22 after. Thank you, guys.